Quick question before we start. What time did you eat your first meal today? Actually, hold that thought, because in about 8 minutes, you might feel a little differently about that answer. Here's the thing nobody really explains to you. Your body isn't just not eating when you skip breakfast. It's actually doing something. A whole sequence of things, quietly, in the background, while you're brushing your teeth and answering emails and pretending you're not thinking about food. And once you see what's actually happening hour by hour, breakfast starts to look a lot less like a rule and a lot more like a habit someone sold you a long time ago. So let's walk through it. Not as a diet, just as biology. The first thing to understand is insulin. You don't need to be a doctor to get this part. Insulin is the hormone your pancreas releases every time you eat, and its job is simple. It tells your body, food's here, go store some of this. Which is great, until it never stops happening. If you're eating breakfast at 7, a snack at 10, lunch at noon, another snack at 3, and dinner at 7, your insulin is basically never off. And here's the part that surprised me when I first read into this. While insulin is up, your body can't really touch its fat stores. It's too busy dealing with what just came in. Think of it like a warehouse. The doors only open once the delivery truck leaves. If trucks are showing up every 2 hours, those doors never really open. So what happens if you close the kitchen after dinner and don't reopen it until noon? That's about a 16-hour stretch. And your body moves through it in stages, kind of like a night shift with different jobs at different hours. In the first couple hours after your last meal, insulin is still doing its thing. Digesting, storing, topping off your glycogen tanks, which is basically your body's short-term fuel reserve. You feel full, maybe a little sleepy. Normal stuff. By the middle of the night, insulin starts dropping. Your liver takes over, quietly releasing stored sugar to keep your brain running while you sleep. It's honestly kind of impressive. Your brain uses about 1/5 of your daily energy, and it's doing that entirely on autopilot. No effort from you at all. All right, quick pause here at minute 2. Here's a question worth sitting with. If your body already knows how to run smoothly all night without food, why do so many of us panic the second we wake up without having eaten yet? Kind of interesting when you think about it. Anyway, back to the timeline. Somewhere around hour 5 or 6, something shifts. Insulin has dropped low enough that fat cells start releasing stored energy. Not all at once, just a crack in the door. This is called lipolysis, which is really just a science word for fat starting to get used. And by hour 7 or 8, your liver's short-term fuel is running low, so it starts making something called ketones from that released fat. These ketones can actually cross into your brain and be used as fuel there too, which means somewhere around early morning, while you're still asleep, your brain has quietly started running on 2 fuel sources instead of 1. You didn't do anything for this to happen, you just didn't interrupt it. Now here's where it gets genuinely interesting, and this part is actually backed by a Nobel Prize, not just a wellness blog claim. Around the 12-hour mark, a process called autophagy starts ramping up. The word literally means self-eating, which sounds a little dramatic, but really it just means your cells start cleaning house. Old damaged proteins, worn-out cell parts, the stuff that piles up over time, your body starts breaking it down and recycling it. A researcher named Yoshinori Osumi won the Nobel Prize in 2016 for figuring out how this process actually works at the cellular level. So this isn't fringe internet theory. It's considered one of the more important discoveries in modern biology. And this cleanup process is largely blocked whenever you're actively eating. It really only gets going once you've given your body a real break. Okay, minute 4 check-in. Here's something most people don't expect. The hours right before noon, the ones everyone assumes will feel awful, are often when people report feeling the sharpest. Not starving. Sharp. We'll get to why in a second. So let's talk about growth hormone, because this is the part that tends to surprise people the most. There's research out of Intermountain Medical Center that looked at 24-hour fasts and found growth hormone levels jumped dramatically, over 1,000% in some participants, with an even bigger response in men. A 16-hour fast produces a smaller version of that same effect, but it's still measurable, and it's still happening in that late morning window. Why does this matter? Growth hormone does 2 useful things here. It helps release stored fat for energy, and it helps protect your muscle while you're not eating. So the fear a lot of people have, won't I lose muscle if I skip breakfast, is actually addressed by the body's own chemistry. Short fasts like this don't tend to burn muscle. If anything, your body's actively trying to protect it during this window. There's also a hormone called BDNF that tends to rise during fasting. It's basically a growth signal for brain cells, tied to memory and mental clarity. Research from scientists like Mark Mattson at the National Institute on Aging has pointed to fasting as one of the more reliable ways to nudge this hormone upward, at least in animal studies, with human data pointing the same direction, which might explain why so many people say their focus actually improves in the late morning instead of falling apart. Now, let's clear something up, because I know someone's thinking it. What about breakfast being the most important meal of the day? Where did that even come from? Short version. That phrase has roots way back with cereal companies marketing breakfast products in the early 1900s, and it got repeated so often over the decades that it just became accepted as medical fact. But in 2019, a large review published in the BMJ looked at 13 separate clinical trials on breakfast and weight, and it found no solid evidence that eating breakfast helps with weight loss or metabolism in adults. Some people who skipped it even ate less overall during the day without making up for it later. That doesn't mean breakfast is bad. It just means it's not the metabolic requirement it's been marketed as. All right, minute 6. Quick gut check for you. Have you ever noticed you're not actually hungry first thing in the morning, but you eat anyway because that's just what you do? That's not your body talking. That's just routine. There's one more piece worth mentioning, and it's one almost nobody talks about. Your gut has its own built-in cleaning system called the migrating motor complex. It's a wave of activity that sweeps through your intestines, clearing out leftover debris, but it only turns on when you're not actively digesting something. Every time you eat, even a small snack, that cleanup cycle gets interrupted and has to start over. A longer stretch without food just gives it room to actually finish the job. So by the time noon rolls around, here's roughly where your body is sitting. Insulin's at its lowest point of the day. Fat is being used for fuel. Cellular cleanup is in full swing. Growth hormone has had its window. And when you finally do eat, your body tends to handle that meal more efficiently than it would have first thing in the morning, largely because your cells are simply more responsive to insulin at this point. Now, a few honest notes before you go try this. This isn't for everyone. If you have a history of disordered eating, are pregnant or breastfeeding, or take medications like insulin or certain diabetes drugs, please don't just wing this without talking to your doctor first, because the risks are real for those situations specifically. For most other healthy adults, though, this is really just about timing, not starving yourself, not some extreme plan, just giving your body a longer stretch to do the maintenance work it's already built to do. If you're going to try pushing your first meal to noon, drop noon in the comments so I know who's actually testing this out. And if you want to know what to actually eat once that window opens to make the most of it, that's a whole video on its own, so make sure you're subscribed for that one. Either way, thanks for sticking around this long. See you in the next one.